I believe one of those most powerful weapons that we utilize to tear ourselves down are words. And not only our own words, but accepting the words of others. So this is where we make this next turn, going into the childhood area of some women's lives, where maybe it was a relative, a friend, an associate, something we were watching that was breaking you down from an early age with words, and then those words became your words, and you regurgitated those words over your life, making these contracts.
You live the words first. You live it. You just live it. I grew up in that. I grew up just, we don't even have enough time for that. But words. And I grew up believing the words. I believed the words for a long time. I believed the words.
How early could you remember going back to when you heard the words that started to shape your world, not for the better, but for the worse? What's going on, beautiful people? Welcome back to the Value TV show, the show where we give you tools to build and have healthy relationships. That's right, tools to build and have healthy relationships. Today, I am dedicating this episode right here. Listen, ladies. This episode is dedicated to all the amazing women out there, the women who feel forgotten, the women who feel like they've been through so much pain, there's no way they can come back, the women who feel like there are no women that's supporting them. I had to bring one of the most dynamic women I have ever met onto the show, back onto the show, Mrs. Teresa Smith.
Thank you.
How are you doing?
What a compliment.
It's serious.
What a compliment. Thank you. But what that just lets me know is that I am walking in my gift and other people see it. So thank you.
How have you been?
Very well.
Yeah.
Yeah, good.
Listen, I know you wear many hats.
I do.
But one of those hats, and this is why I chose you to be on this episode, and as we address the women out there that are listening and watching, because you do a very skillful job at empowering women. You know, even from our last conversation that we had on the lake, there was a lot of wisdom that was spilt that day. So real briefly, just let the people know one of the many gifts that God has packaged in this amazing woman.
The one that we're going to use for this context.
Yes.
Okay, so the one for this context is I am a coach. And I kind of leave it at coach. People automatically assume, oh, you're a life coach. And I tell people, yeah, I used to be a life coach. And they were like, okay, well, what kind of coach are you now? And I let people know I am a soul coach now. I learned probably about 2 years into this as a full-time business. People create lives that they want you to believe that they're living, and they want to coach from that place. But it's a lot more impactful to coach a soul than it is a life.
Why?
Because your soul is who you are. Your life, again, is what you can create. You can make up a life. People do it all day long. You can go on Facebook, you can go on Instagram, and you see all kinds of everything. Sometimes I say to myself, now, I know you in real life, right? So that lets me know that you're willing to create a life so that other people can see you living a certain way versus living as who you really are. And your soul is who you really are. It cannot lie. It cannot belittle you. It cannot make you somebody that you're not. So no matter who you show up as, eventually your soul will show me who they are. And that's who I choose to connect and engage with.
You know, I said this one point in time, I said that, you know, in terms of externally, we can make things up, we can dress it up real well, but you can't dress up a sad soul. Eventually, like you said, it will come to surface and it will be exposed and it'll be like, oh, that there he is, there she is. So have you found that challenging when you're dealing with some women that this, what should I say? They dress up the external portion very well?
No, everybody has a representative. Everybody. It doesn't matter until you are fully enlightened. And there are only a small people who ever really get to be fully enlightened. Until then, you have an iteration of a representative. There's a part of you that nobody knows, not even you. We're constantly evolving. So if you're constantly evolving, as each part of you shows up, the other part dies off. But a new version of you has shown up. And then you live as that version of you until you learn whatever lessons you need to learn from that experience, whatever people you need to meet, whatever experiences you need to have. You learn all of that. And then when you're ready, and it's after you have gone through your multitude of tests, you've got to go through the test. You've got to go through the lessons, and that's the everyday living. Then you get to the test. The test shows up in all kinds of ways. We want the test to show up exactly how we want it to show up because we want to pass the test. Everybody wants to pass it. You want to pass it the first time. But the test shows up as it is. And if you've learned the lessons, it doesn't matter how the test shows up, you're going to pass. But if you've been kind of faking the funk along the way and you just, cut class over here and skipped some steps over here and didn't do the pre-test, didn't do your homework, when you get to the test, you're going to fail. And then you're bound to repeat that lesson again. And you keep repeating until you learn it, then you're ready to go to the next level. So we're constantly evolving. So there is no ever set in stone, this is who I am.
Right. So before we get into delivering these tools to help people get out of wherever they may be at, or to even advance from wherever they are, has Teresa ever skipped homework?
Absolutely. What do you mean? I'm a human. I am here for the human experience.
What has it cost you? Skipping homework and skipping the lesson?
Headache, heartache, time, energy. And that's in my consciousness, that's what it cost me. In reality, it didn't cost me anything. It was part of the lesson.
Well, in reality, you don't think it caused you any pain?
Yeah, but I needed that pain to get to the next level.
Do you believe there's some pain that we can actually avoid, though? Because I believe there's some mistakes. Because I know I hear a lot of people say, well, I'm just going to learn. Life is going to teach me. Yeah. And I understand it will. But I believe there are some pitfalls that we can avoid by watching the Value TV show. Listening to the amazing Teresa Smith.
But even still, even in what you think is the thing that was wrong or bad or shouldn't have done, it's still a part of your journey. It's a part of your story. It's a part of your process. It's almost like baking a cake and leaving out the eggs. You got to have eggs because that's an integral part of baking a cake. So you can't conceivably leave out a step and get the same product that you're looking for. You can get something. You can leave your eggs out of a cake. You're going to get something.
Give me a point in time when you skipped the homework and you had to deal with the repercussions afterward.
Oh my gosh. Fortunately, I have to think back because I yielded to my journey a long time ago. And I say I yielded to it because there's a calling and a knowing, and we all have it, and you know when it kicks in. But if you're not ready, you'll miss it. And it's like a merry-go-round. It'll come back around. Now, but when it's come back around, some things have changed. It's not the same. So sometimes we get things after it's happened. Because there's a premise that says you go in with 10% knowledge. You get 60% while you're in it. And then you get 30% when you leave. No, let me reverse that. 10% when you go in, 30% while you're there. But the bulk of what you learn, 60%, is after you're gone. After it's happened, that's where hindsight is 20/20 comes from. So when you look back, you're like, oh, man, I should have been doing this. Oh, I had this opportunity to do that. So now you think when it comes around again, you're going to apply that same thing that would have worked the other time. But it probably won't work this time because some things have changed. They have evolved in that time that you didn't miss it. So, I have missed what I would, in my consciousness, say is opportunities. But they were kind of setups for other opportunities. Probably the most significant for me that the opportunity where I could have done something different and had to learn from it was, in all honesty, the night I was committing suicide.
I remember you touched on that in the last episode we did on the water. So that was that defining moment for Teresa?
That was. Now, I will tell you, it was the defining moment. It was like when the light switch turned on. It was like when everything just came to make sense. But I still wasn't ready to operate in it. So that's what sometimes gets us all jacked up, is that I've got this knowing now. I've got this knowledge. I got this thing I know I'm supposed to be doing. I know this path. I know this journey. But I heard somebody say just the other day, you can be ready, but are you prepared? So sometimes you're ready for the change, but you're not prepared for all the things that come with it.
You at that day though, you told me that the suicide day, you were in the tub.
I was in the bathtub.
So even with as dramatic as it was, about to the point your mind is driving to the point of you're about to commit suicide and kill yourself, you get out of the tub and you feel as if I'm still not ready.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think that, again, that's one of those things that trip us up. It's thinking that when I make a change, it's supposed to be instant because this society has told us everything now is instant. You get it at your fingertips. You get it at, push this button, touch this thing, blink your eyes. Everything is happening so quickly that, again, we forget there is process. And if you skip the process, you get what you get. And it's usually not what you want. It's not your desire. You're going to get something, but if you're going to cut some steps out and, yeah, I mean, if you hire a contractor to come and work on your house and he cuts some steps out.
Yeah.
And you go in there and you plug something into your light socket and your whole house shorts out, catches on fire because he skipped some steps. There's a penalty in skipping a step.
People are listening and watching. I know they're thinking this, and we're not going to spend too much time on it. But I want to answer the question that I believe they're pondering upon is, what drove you to the tub, into this position where you know what, I'm taking my life.
So this is what I teach every day. This is what I teach through my existence, not necessarily what I teach my clients, not what I teach. This is just what I teach through my existence. I was always the happy person. I still am. This time it truly is genuine, but I was always the person that can make everybody laugh. You know, we have fun when you're with me, all these different things. But I was pretending for so long. Pretending became who I was, going back to the representative. And, you know, God is always getting our attention. So I tell people there were inklings of who I was, but I didn't know if I liked her. I liked my representative. She was pretty, she was smart, she was funny, she was fine, she was the life of the party, she was everything. But I created her because I didn't like who I really was on the inside. And I had an incident to occur that brought me to a place where I had to acknowledge either I am what you say I am or I'm something else. Either I am that or I'm something else. And in that moment when that incident occurred, it was probably one of the most defining moments in my adult life.
How old were you?
28.
So in that tub it was your representative that was trying to take you out? Or was it be?
It was my soul probably. It wasn't my soul trying to take me out. My soul was probably so conflicted. The representative probably wanted to stay.
Yeah.
Because the representative was very popular, very known, very everything. But in that spot between my soul kicking in and the representative dying, there's just like a kind of like a guff. Just a place of unknowing.
Yeah.
And so many of us get in that place of unknowing because, again, we know we're being called and pulled and drawn to this side. But this side is so comfortable and this side is so real. I've been this way my whole life. You know, people love to say that, but how's that really serving you? So, so in your unknowing, you know, the part, I'm scared to go here, I'm scared to leave this, but I want to leave this and I need to go there. There's just that void, almost a sense. That's the easiest way I can describe it. It's like a guff.
So, because there's women that are listening and watching, and this is where we can make this transition, that are in this void space, almost like an empty space.
It's empty.
Unknowing, I have the information, I want to apply it, but I don't know. And maybe they may be at the point of committing suicide, or maybe they're not. You know, maybe theirs may not be as extreme, but everybody's extreme is different.
Absolutely.
So how do they start to navigate from being in this void space to making just at least the first step, to becoming self-aware of who they are and the power they possess?
So there's a quote that says, the first step to change is just deciding that you no longer want to be where you currently are. You got to make a decision. Again, we can get so comfortable in the crazy, in the hurt, in the pain, in the redundancy of life. We can get so comfortable because I know this. I don't know what that is. I may go over there and it may be this, it may be that. What if I get there and this, and then I have to go back to that? So people never leave. It's just choosing. Literally, I just don't. People ask me because, again, they say the definition of insanity is what? Doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different outcome. So what do? Something different. Well, what's something different? Not that. Not what you just did.
But here's my thing, right? And let me just make this disclaimer. Men have work to do. Why do you believe some women are continually making the same choice? Maybe let's talk about relationship. When it comes to choosing, even though it's insane. It's putting me in the same pain. It's putting me in the same predicament. It's setting me back constantly, but I'm still making this same choice. Now, I know there's a deeper underlying issue, and we're going to address that. Why do you believe that choice is constantly made?
So, we could go so deep with
Where
this.
my power is being drained to the point that I don't even believe I have it anymore.
So, this could go really deep, but there is, scripture tells us that thing that I don't want to do, but I do it anyway, and the thing that I do want to do, I can't seem to do it. We have two natures. We have our carnal self and we have our spiritual self. Your carnal self is your consciousness, everything that you see, know, and have. Your spiritual self is your subconscious, that's your inner man, that other part of you. The conscious part of you is the dictator and the director. The subconscious just does what it's told. So sometimes it is, and it's unfortunate, it's on a loop until you tell it to do something different. So again, doing something different to get something different. Until you tell it to do something different, it's not just today you're going to be like, all right, today we're not going to do so and so. Yeah, you may do it for that day, but then it knows, it's like a computer program. When you go and plug in your computer and you turn your computer on, whether it's an Apple, whether it's an HP, whatever it is, what's the first thing that comes up? It boots up and it brings you the screen. It knows exactly what to do. Until you tell it to do something different, it continues to do the same thing. So we get into patterns and habits and loops without really knowing that we're in patterns and habits and loops. And on top of that, we make all kinds of contracts and vows and commitments, with ourselves without even realizing, I'm never going to do so and so. What did you just say? You're never going to do? So, when people, I had a client who wanted to have children but couldn't conceive. And the more we talk, and coaching and counseling are different. I do try to make people understand that, but there are some similarities. There's some places that we overlap. So we got to talking, and I'm like, okay, what kind of commitment or what kind of vow could you have made with yourself that you are infertile? Now, there could be medical, all kinds of things, but I still believe that we make all kinds of, we just don't realize it. And she said, I am the oldest of 11 children. I think it was 11. And I raised all of my siblings. And I remember saying, I'm never having kids. That's a contract that you made, your subconscious, that records everything that you've ever seen, done, smelled, tasted, felt, records all of it. And has total recall of it, which is why hypnosis works. But you made that vow, and it didn't know that wasn't going to serve you 30 years later, 20 years later. It didn't know that you were going to. So you have to change the vow. So you have to change the commitment. You have to change the agreement. You have to change all of the things that you've been doing that keep you in the loops and the habits that you keep doing.
When did you discover or have this awareness that, you know what, I got some superpowers as a woman? Because I believe every person has that moment where they like, you know what, I know what I'm doing. I know I'm not doing this anymore. Or not even saying I'm not doing it anymore, but you realize you tapped into something greater within yourself. At what age was that, if you could recall, or what time frame, you know? Because every woman listening or watching, something's stirring in them right now. Or maybe it's not, but then they may have that moment a month from now, a year from now, where it's like, oh no, I'm not, you know what? You can't address me like that. This is who I am.
Knowing and embracing, knowing and honoring, knowing and acting in are completely different.
Mm-hmm.
So you can know it. I mean, we all know it. All women know, even when they're in it, they know I'm not supposed to. This is not who I am. They will tell it. If it's a guy that's treating them bad, if it's the job, they can tell everybody else. They ain't supposed to be treating me like that. I'm not gonna let him treat me like that anymore. So you know it. But then what do you do with it? How do people know stuff?
Let's
don't do anything with it.
Let's build that bridge today with tools, live in person. The bridge from knowing to doing, because that void is the bridge. There's no bridge there.
There you go.
So
that's a good point.
There's
that's
no
an
bridge.
Excellent point.
There's no bridge there. So that's why that first question, the question I just asked you was, when did you discover and say, oh, here's the bridge?
I don't think, for me, it wasn't, here's the bridge.
Right.
It was more, I'm going to go this way. I'm going to go this way. I'm going to go, because again, that knowing tells you where to go.
Yeah.
It tells you where to go. But because we don't know us, that knowing can be a foreign sound. It can be too loud, so we tune it out. It can be too soft. It can not be telling us what we think we want to hear. So there's a lot of different reasons why we don't go. We just don't. But then I've learned too that I love that you keep talking about tools. But until I teach you that that's a tool, it's just a thing. If I gave you a piece of wood with a shiny piece of metal on the end that was round on one part and had a claw on the other side, to you, that would just be a piece of wood with a shiny piece of metal with a round side on one side and a claw on the other side. But the day I tell you it's a hammer, now it's a hammer. And until I teach you that that's a tool, you can use it for whatever. And more times than not, we use them as weapons against ourselves versus tools. A tool is that thing, like you said, that helps you build the bridge. The weapon tears it down. And we're constantly using our own tools as weapons against ourselves, tearing ourselves down constantly.
I believe one of those most powerful weapons that we utilize to tear ourselves down are words. And not only our own words, but accepting the words of others. So this is where we make this next turn, going into the childhood area of some women's lives, where maybe it was a relative, a friend, an associate, something we were watching that was breaking you down from an early age with words, and then those words became your words, and you regurgitated those words over your life, making these contracts.
You live the words first. You live it. You just live it. I grew up in that. I grew up just, we don't even have enough time for that. But words. And I grew up believing the words. I believed the words for a long time. I believed the words.
How early could you remember going back to when you heard the words that started to shape your world, not for the better, but for the worse?
So I follow a lot of really powerful teachers. And what I do know is that we're kind of unconscious until we're about 7. You may have, recollections of bits and pieces, but to have full consciousness and knowing, that comes in when we're about 7. But I do have very vivid flashes of memory in my 4, 5, 6-year-old time in my experience. I remember lots of anger, but I was conceived in a way that did not make me a desired child. I was conceived during an extramarital affair. So if we fully understand that everything is energy and vibration, then we understand that even the child that you're carrying is operating or being carried in a vibration. So when a woman is feeling less than, unworthy, angry, bitter, that child is now absorbing that. So now again, you may be living a way that you don't even understand because it happened before you were in utero, that you were exposed to some things that are now imprinted in you. And they stay in us until we recognize they're there, because again, they pop up. And they show up as headaches. They show up as the relationship that you keep having over and over. They show up in the dead-end job. They show up everywhere because those are all, again, vibrations that we're connected to. We're connected to that. So as you start to recognize, and you ask me, when did you know? And I it's again, as you're building the bridge, it just kind of shows up. Nobody builds a bridge and then it's just a bridge. There's, again, part of the process.
Yeah.
There's you got to scope out the land first. What part am I going to work on? Because if I try to work on everything, I'm not going to work on anything.
Or you tire yourself out.
Yeah. It's overwhelming because nobody has just one thing. So what I do is I choose that one thing that I'm going to work on right now. And then I lay that foundation. But that one is going to show me what I need to do next. If I try to plan it all out, you can try to plan out your healing, but it don't go like that. It just doesn't. So you just, it shows up. The very next thing, if you do this, the next thing will show up. If you do that thing, the next thing will show up. And if you're just willing enough to follow it, you have to be willing.
How important was it for you when you became aware of this? Like, okay, in the womb, I was dealing with this, didn't have this best of childhood. How important was it for you when you became knowledgeable to revisit your past? Not saying revisit like go there, but almost sometime, like in my mind, I do a passing review and I can see like, oh, that's why I was like that. Or even if it's in my current life, if I'm making certain choices or I react a certain way, I'm like, that's from that. Now I can see it, identify it. We're going to cut that off. We're breaking that cycle per se. We're not going to continue to do that so it doesn't get passed down to my next generation.
But when you break the cycle, you also have to break the cycle with the version of you that was cool in that place.
Yes.
You got to cut that part of you, because that's what we do. We can stop going to that house or to that person or doing that thing. We can stop doing that. But if we don't stop it internally, if we don't cut that part of us that really liked it, because if you kept doing it, part of you liked it. Regardless how bad it was, part of you liked it. So if I don't separate that part of me from it, then that's how easy it is to just go back to it.
That's good, because oftentimes, because I actually had the opportunity to, coach some women, and we're breaking the cycle externally. I cut him off. I don't go to that place no more. I don't go to that town no more.
What part of you did you cut off?
But what part of me did I cut off?
Yeah.
What part of me did I break off and destroy and say, you know what, we're not going there.
Because if you didn't dig it out from the root. You ever seen the root of a dandelion? You know how long the root of a dandelion is?
It's long.
Almost a foot. So when you keep cutting off that little yellow flower on the top, it just comes right back. It just comes right back. We're not going to the root of what we're doing. Yeah, I can stop going over there. But then I'll just go over there. Because it's the same energy. It's the same vibe. I can just go right over there. And then when I get the same thing, it's like, no, you keep going. Because you're not separating that part of you. You want it to be external. We all do.
Yeah.
We all do. Because that means I don't have to do the hard work. I had I used to be 250 pounds.
Are you serious?
I did.
Wow.
Again, and that was a part of my journey because I was living in a body that I thought was protecting me from a lot of things that I thought I needed to be protected from. But when I no longer needed that protection, it was easy for me to shed that body. So I got to eating right, exercising, everything was good. It was good. I was Oh, it was just coming out 60 pounds in 6 months. People were just, what'd you do? Did you have surgery? No, it's literally diet and exercise and mindset, because I became very conscious of what I put in my mouth, but I also became conscious of what I let out of my mouth. And when people are reckless with their words, again, going back to the words, just reckless. I got this, no. They may have diagnosed you with that, but you don't have that until you own it. And I am is ownership. So until you own something, you don't have it. Mm-hmm. So we went back and forth with that. And I had somebody walk up to me one day and she was like, oh my God, you look amazing. You look great. Oh my God, I want your body. And I said, well, come on, you can come out here. We can come out. I teach this class 3, 4, 5, 7 days a week. Come on, you can come out here. She says, no, I said, I want your body. I didn't say I wanted to do the work to get it. That was so profound for me to hear somebody say, I want it without doing the work. And that's so many people. That was me for a long time. I went to the doctor when I was heavier. When I saw myself in some pictures at my 25th class reunion, shout out to Benjamin E. Mays High School in Atlanta, but 25th class reunion, and I'm like, who's that fat chick in all my clothes? I did not recognize myself. I did not know that was me. I didn't know I looked like that. But again, I wasn't ready to see that until then. Because I had seen enough in my unconsciousness that it was coming together. Right? Because the tools are always there. We just don't necessarily, again, if you just see that piece of wood with that piece of metal on the end of it, it's not a tool. It's just a piece of wood with a metal. So I didn't know I had tools that I was already working with, that I was already learning how to use them. And I went to the doctor and I said, I want you to run every test in the book and tell me why I'm fat. Because in all honesty, I had been telling people for years, I got a little thyroid thing. Let me retract that. I don't want to speak that. I didn't mean to speak that. I do not have a thyroid thing. But that was something I was using as my reason for being fat. And the doctor came back and he said, you're fat because you don't eat right and you don't exercise. And I was like, you sure it's not my thyroid? He was like, no, it's your thyroid. Another defining moment. So now what do I do with that? You can tell people and you can teach people all day long. What they do with it is their business. So for years he had been telling me, you probably should go exercise. When you say your boys play football, walk around the track when they're playing football. I'm doing it, wasn't doing it, but I'm doing it. You should try the Mediterranean diet. I'm doing it, wasn't doing it. I'm doing it. All these different, playing with myself. I wasn't playing with him. He knew what I was and was not doing. That's my doctor. I was playing with me. And when I saw those pictures, I couldn't play with me anymore. When he gave me my results, I couldn't play with me anymore.
Because this is evidence.
This is factual.
Is evidence-based facts.
It's like, wait, what? You mean I really got to exercise if I want to lose weight? But I did not like the way I looked in that picture.
Did you not love yourself?
Oh, it took me a lot of years to love myself. Even when I had my bathtub moment, that was just like a spark that just kind of started it going. You know how on the cartoons, you might not be young enough to remember this, but they would light a fuse. It'd be this long fuse, and they'd light it, and it would burn down, and then it boom. Yeah. So that's what it was like for me. It was just kind of, I lit the fuse, but then it's just going. And as it's lit, you just kind of keep going along the journey, but you make sure you're seeing everything. You're seeing it. Now, truth be told, your subconscious sees 11 million partials of information per second. Per second. That means that you've seen everything you've ever seen. You've seen it. You don't recall it because our brains we are only connected and tapped in enough that we tap into maybe about 40 things. So in this whole room, you've seen every single thing, every piece of lint on the floor, the cobwebs that's in the ceiling, you've seen all of it.